HOG Rider Night Witch, the control deck, and the Meta Crusher. What's up guys, it's Chirag again, and today, I'll be showing my HOG Night Witch deck guide. Clash Royale Best Deck series continues on GWC. If you like HOG's NOCHE deck, then check description, I put link on deck guide. This deck is an absolute meta crusher because it can defend against almost anything, and has a surprisingly powerful offense. In this deck we have HOG Rider, Night Witch, Knight, Goblin Barrel, Executioner, Tornado, Tombstone, Fireball. So don't waste any time, let's start the guide. Cards breakdown. HOG Rider. He is your main win conditions. The HOG is very solid and been strong in every meta. He is strongest when used on a counter push. Once your opponent has used a lot of elixir, Night Witch and Knight can make excellent tanks for the HOG Rider. Second card is Night Witch. Combined with the HOG Rider, they make the trifecta or control. Sounds cool, right? This combo can be deadly without the right counters. The tanks for the HOG to get to the tower, while she also can kill other troops with her battle axe. When the Night Witch dies, she spawns even more bats to support. The Night Witch also has very high DPS, so she is your main tank and HOG killer. Third card is Knight. On defense, when the Night Witch is assassinating tanks, the Knight is her guard. Use the Knight to soak up damage from everything to allow the Night Witch to survive. On offense, he can also tank for the HOG with 1 elixir less than the Night Witch for a cheaper push. Fourth card is Goblin Barrel. This is mainly a threat card and a secondary win condition. It brings a slight bait aspect to the deck. Throw it on your opponent tower to force them to spend elixir or to force them to use a spell. This card's spot is more of a free space. You can use any card you want here. If you don't want to use the Goblin Barrel, any support card worth 4 elixir or less will work well instead of the Goblin Barrel. Fifth card is Executioner. The Executioner plus Tornado is the ultimate push stopper and will crushes the meta. While the Knight and Night Witch are working together to kill a tank, the Executioner stays back to execute the enemy support troops. On a counter push, HOG plus Night Witch plus Executioner is a very powerful push. Sixth card, Tombstone. The Tombstone is a building used as a distraction. Use it to pull HOGs, giants, and other tower targeting troops into their death. The Tombstone dies easily, so don't rely on it too much. It only a distraction. The spawning skeleton will also help for extra DPS. Seventh card is Fireball. Fireball, depending on what type of 2 muskies deck you face, will determine whether you will use lightning or fireball. If you face more 3 muskies heal, use lightning. If you don't face against 3 muskies heal, run fireball. On offense, both fireball and lightning are used to damage defenses and deal damage to the crown tower. Last card is Tornado. Use this to bring troops to your king tower to activate it, and use the Tornado to pull troops together for the Executioner to execute them. If the Executioner is on offense, the Tornado can be used to pull the enemy troops in front of the tower, allowing the Executioner to splash the tower as well. Replacements for card. If you not have cards, or at low level, you can replace with this cards also. HOG Rider. You can use Battle Ram for Night Witch. You can use Electro Wizard for Knight. Use Ice Golem for Goblin Barrel. You can use the Log, or Zap, or Goblin Gang for Executioner. Use Wizard for Tombstone. Can use Goblin Gang, or Skeleton Army, or Cannon for Fireball. Use the Lightning or Poison and Tornado. Can use Zap or the Log. General game plan. This deck is mainly a control deck. By defending and counter-pushing with your HOG Rider, the only time you will go super aggressive is for a punishment push against a heavy elixir investment. Best starting plays: Lone HOG at the bridge, Tombstone in the middle, Goblin Barrel at the tower or corner of the map, Knight at the back, Night Witch at the back. Slightly risky play. Play very slow and focus on making positive elixir trades. Only play a Lone HOG or Lone Goblin Barrel if you want to make a push that not from a counter push. Overcommitting on offense can be very deadly for you. The only time it is safe to overcommit is in double elixir, when you have more elixir flowing and can counter your opponent counter pushes more easily. Remember to always punish the opposite lane against an expensive unit. HOG plus Knight, which is an extremely powerful punish when your opponent not have very much elixir left. Place the Night Witch in front of the Hog to tank for him, and the Night Witch can spawn bat to support. Simply Knight plus Goblin Barrel can deal heavy damage if your opponent does not have a log to deal with the goblins. Although this deck has Hog Rider plus Goblin Barrel, never play it in normal elixir time unless for a punishing attack. Hog plus Barrel can get easily counters by simply Barbarians, and you will get crushed by the counter push. It depends on what cards your opponent has, but do not take the risk of playing Hog plus Barrel and get mauled by the counter push. This deck playstyle can change depending on the playstyle of the enemy deck. If you are playing against a slow and heavy build-up deck, this deck will play more aggressively as to continue to pressure the opponent so they can build up a huge push. Only use light pushes with Hog plus Knight or Night Witch. When playing against an aggressively attacking deck, this deck becomes very much of a slow control deck. Use the solid defenses to defend the opponent fast and aggressive pushes, then counter-attack with deadly force. Deck matchups. The Giant. When the Giant is played in the back, punish the other lane with a light push. Because the Giant is fairly cheap and only costs 5 elixir, playing a heavy push might get stopped by your opponent and you will be stopped by your elixir disadvantage. Tombstone will distract the Giant while the Executioner kills the support and the Night Witch assassinates the Giant. The Golem. Defending the Golem is like defending a Giant. Every time the Golem is placed in the back, rush the other lane immediately. Don't be afraid to invest a 10 elixir bar on a punish if it means destroying a tower and diverting your opponent elixir from the Golem. Some playing may play as support troops in the back and place the Golem directly at the bridge to not get punished easily. When a support troops is placed in the back, send a light push other lane to keep pressure. It is fine to send Goblin Barrels even if your opponent has a spell, because it will make sure your opponent is busy spending elixir and building up a Golem push. The P.E.K.K.A. controlled decks will completely stop your offense if you let it. Although your own defense can P.E.K.K.A. attacks easily too. The Tombstone will distract the P.E.K.K.A. Executioner will execute the back line. Knight can tank damage, and Night Witch is your assassin to clean up shop. Most P.E.K.K.A. decks run Tornado, so always play the Goblin Barrel in the safe spot in the upper corner of the tower where it can be tornadoed. On offense, you will need to be trading blows. Once your opponent pushes you, counter push, then defend the enemy counter push, then counter their counter to your counter push, etc. Did I confuzzle you? Just counter every counter push. If you want P.E.K.K.A. controlled bridge spam deck, then a link is given in the description. Check it out for more details. The Battle Ram Bridge Spam. You are in luck here, because this deck will completely counter bridge spam. The Tombstone is the ultimate bridge spam stopper while you have so many other support troops to kill everything. Just like playing against P.E.K.K.A. control, you will want to defend the push, then counter push, then defense the counter your counter push, then counter their counter to your counter push, etc. The only difference is, you should be able to get more damage done to the enemy tower since they don't have the P.E.K.K.A. to stop you. The Mortar X Bow. The Tombstone will be the perfect distraction. The Knight is also your best tank to soak up damage from the Mortar or X Bow. Do not use the Hog Rider to kill the siege weapon. Executioner Tornado should be. You need to take down the siege weapon. The Hog Rider must be save up as a counter push. Otherwise, if you don't have the Hog in rotation, your offense will become very weak. The Miner Chip Cycle. Rely on the Knight and Night Witch to kill the Miner and soak up damage. It is very important to rush both lanes because these Miner Chip decks can chip your tower down, and before you realize your tower is already within poison range. The Goblin Gangbait decks. Executioner plus Tornado is your best defense against the swarms. Tombstone should always be up to distract defenses. Your Knight does a good job clearing out Goblin gangs too. Night Witch will assassinate any miners or Hog Rider coming your way. Offense can be very hard if your opponent has an Inferno tower and all the swarms will kill you. Hog Rider. Always counter push when there is an opening and defend with Hex Needle. The Hog Rider used the Tornado to activate your King Tower, and defense should now be a walk in the park for you. Just like playing against bridge spam, trade blows by countering each other counters to the counters of the enemy counter-attack. The Three Musketeers. Remember my rule of spells against Three Musketeers. If you play against more Three Musketeers heal, use Lightning, and if you play against Three Musketeers without heal, use Fireball. Punish every pump your opponent plays and make sure you have a big lead in normal elixir before double elixir strikes. In double elixir, if you have gotten a tower, just defense out the last minute of the battle and you win. The Lava Hound. Executioner Tornado. Boom. Push stopped. Punish every Lava Hound play with your Hog Rider. and you should be in for an easy win. That's it for now. Any questions, comments, or insults, post them in the comments below. If you like my video then like and share. Keep supporting me to more Clash Royale decks. For this you need to subscribe to my channel. Every best deck for you. I hope you like my guide and have a better day. See you in next meta guide. Stay tuned. Peace.